On homesteading sites and prepping sites, I don't hear mention of this tool too much, and yet literally with a hammer and a skill saw you can build a house. It's that important. You can build fencing, barns, cabinets. There's really, take your time. It's that indispensable. You can purchase different blades for these. Inside here is a rough cut framing blade. It has carbide tipped teeth, and it's pretty much for cross cutting and a little bit of ripping. You can also purchase for it a plywood blade that has teeth that are relatively close together, and it'll cut plywood or oriented strand board, OSB, and it'll leave a rather smooth finish edge for you. This blade, which is pretty wore out, is for cutting hardy siding. It's a cement backer board. With this saw and a hammer and a bag of money, you can build pretty much anything. There are two types of skill saws. One's called a worm drive, and that's where the handle is out here and the motor and the blade are up forward. It's pretty much a regional saw. A lot of California, the West Coast, like that kind of a saw. The East Coast and the South pretty much like these kind of saws. I find this a lot better balanced, a lot easier. The worm drive saw has more force, but it's just balanced awkward. It's out front. What you want to do is have the blade just a little bit further below whatever surface you're cutting. So if you're cutting a 2x4, which is 1.5 inches thick, you want this blade just a little bit thicker than the depth of cut. And the way you adjust these is this little knob right here. All saws are going to be a little bit different, but you see how that drops it? And that does your depth of cut. You can also change your angle of cut with this adjustment. Okay. By using a simple speed square, you can use that up against your fence, the foot of your saw, and it'll cut accurate 90-degree edges for you every day, all day, every time. Using a speed square, we can use it as a protractor. You use the pivot point right here, okay? And over here, establish what angle you want to cut. So if I want to cut a 20-degree angle, I put it on the 20 mark, and I just go like that, and cut along that line, and I have a 20-degree bevel. A lot of times you'll have a post that you have to put a beam into. You got to notch it out, and the skill saw is perfect for that. Other areas that you might have seen what I'm talking about would be mailboxes, where you have the post coming up out of the ground, and then you have to have a beam come out, and that's where your mailbox sets on. A lot of times you want to inset that into the 4x4, something along those lines. Century 21 signs, all those real estate signs, you know how the two 4x4s come together right there, whether it be a lap joint or a dado. You can do that with one of these skill saws. Let me show you how you do that. It's real simple. Establish where you want to inset your board. In this case, I got a 2x4, and I'm going to inset a 1x4 into it. Draw your edge on your outer edge, okay? And then draw your inside edge, and then I'm going to remove all the material right here. And I'm only going to remove it to this depth. So the first thing I have to do is take my skill saw, unplug it, adjust my foot depth. Can you see that? Just like that. Now it's only going to cut into the 2x4 to that depth. The way I do this is I cut my outside edge and my inside edge first, and then I remove all the stock in between. And it might require a little bit of fine tuning at the end. then simply using a hammer and a chisel, go ahead and knock it out. And clean it up. Go ahead and just take a few minutes and use your chisel. Let's see how we did. Perfect. A lot of times you have to break down sheet goods, plywood, and it has to be accurately cut. And to do that, you use what they call a shooting board. Let me show you. The shooting board is simply two pieces of material, one piece of plywood, usually pretty thin, and a straight edge. It's really good if you can find somebody to rip it on your table saw. And you can make these things any width that you like, but a good set of widths would be 8 foot, and that would allow you to rip down the length of your plywood, and another one that's about 50 inches. And that way it's a little bit wider than the 48 inches that a piece of plywood comes in. And all you simply do is take your straight edge, put it on this piece of plywood, glue it, screw it, nail it, whatever you're going to do to it to attach it. And then simply take your skill saw and run down that straight edge. And what it's going to do is give you a parallel edge to the straight edge. That's number one. It's going to be specific to your saw with the blade that you cut in the plywood with. Don't change out your blades when you're using your shooting board. All you would do is simply mark on your plywood your width. Say you want it at 24 inches. Come over with your tape, 24 inches. Come to the other side, 24 inches. And when you put this down, that's going to be exactly where your saw is going to cut. That's the edge of your plywood. Very handy. There's one other guide that you can have for your saw, and it's a T guide or an edge guide. And it slides in this channel right here. And it allows you to do a parallel cut to 1x or 2x material. I don't use the edge guide on it. If I really need that, I'll use my stair gauges, clamp it on here, and I'll have a straight edge, and I'll just run down my 1x4, my 1x6. This is a super handy tool, and like I said, with a bag of money, a saw, and a hammer, you can literally build a house. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, hit the share button, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you.